My name is Tim Hardcastle. I find this a very privileged time to be talking to you because I was first a CIO in the utility industry in 1999. I had an £80 million budget. I was given a job of re-platforming a billing system, which was actually on a Bull mainframe. And just recently, part of our group, F2X, has procured for that same utility industry a England-wide billing platform for what was less than I paid or we paid when I was CIO in this particular utility company. But you don't need me to stand here and tell you that technology is coming down in price, right? You don't need me to tell you that there are a world of opportunities here which was not the same in 1999, I can tell you that. It was all about e-business, the technology didn't work, business models were flaky, and yet today, if I was in your position, I would be feeling very blessed to be surrounded by this rich, wonderful world of technology. I think the challenge for large corporates, as I felt that pressure and I was sitting on a board, is how do you take the first step? How do you mobilize yourself to connect with today and connect to tomorrow? How do you do that in a way that is taking account of the risks in data, in security, in who are these guys that you're scared of? I happen to think it's a very exciting time, but how do you make those steps? So what we want to share with you this evening is a little bit about what we're doing. We're under the banner of experts. I wouldn't like to say anybody in this time could be an expert, but we've certainly got some years behind us. And I will hand over shortly to Max Pell, who's well familiar with the London market, and I'll give him the opportunity to share with you what we're doing at Instanda and hope you find something of interest. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Can you hear me in the bar? Okay. So I've recently joined Instanda, and before that, for the last 15 years, I've been working in the large corporate world. So I've worked for Hiscox, I've worked for Capita, and I've worked for Exchanging. And there's something very comforting about working in the big corporate world, because when you join, you instantly get a brand, there's a customer stream, there's a revenue stream. We're sort of experiencing the brand here of Baron Jacobson. It's very nice. There are lots of people to do things for you. They bring you pizza and they bring you beer, and it all feels very nice. And they have infrastructure, so they have fantastic offices and they have IT, and it's all rather wonderful. And big organisations are very good at doing the thing they were designed to do. But that comfort tends to come at a cost. And that cost is a very real cost, because that investment in infrastructure, that investment in offices, in those racks of IT, the data centres, is millions of pounds. And we all know that as we get bigger as organisations, we tend to become more unwieldy and more bureaucratic, and find it much more difficult to change our business models to reflect the changing needs of our customers. But what's really struck me is I sort of knew these things, but until I joined this company, the whole thing about as a service, I knew about it in concept, but it hadn't become real to me until I joined Tim. And I just want to talk a little bit about how the business is structured in terms of everything as a service. So we tend to think of anything that has the label with as a service as being some form of technology that's delivered from the cloud. Of course, as a service can be physical. So everything we buy and everything we do as an organisation, we consume as a service. So property as a service, so we are located about 5 minutes away from here in WeWork offices, which are absolutely fantastic. So I remember when I was at Exchanging we moved into the Walbrook building, which is a fantastic, lovely building, and we spent many millions of pounds of kitting it out, and we were very proud to show customers around. Well, in the WeWork model, you can literally go in, you can take one desk, you can take it for a month, you can take 2 months, and you instantly plug into the investment of WeWork into their environments, and for a fraction of the cost, you get an amazing environment. For an absolute marginal fraction of the cost, which in the past would have been entering into a long lease and doing the fit out. Now, the only problem with the WeWork is it has an infestation, and it's an infestation of millennials. So for somebody of my age, it's very infuriating to see all these bright, brilliant people with their perfect bodies and their Apple Macs and their beards and their ridiculous sense of self-entitlement making me feel very ill. But apart from that, the WeWork offices is fantastic. And we're a technology company that doesn't own any technology. So we're on the Microsoft Azure platform. And when I go back to my old days, I used to go back to the IT director and said, we really need to up the database and we need to get some more servers, and he'd nod and say, yeah, well, it's 3 months for me to procure the services, the computers, and I've got to plug them into the racks, and you can have them in 6 months. We've got access to Microsoft Azure desktop control, which means within 30 minutes we can buy 10 terabytes and 100 more CPUs. So you won't be surprised to hear that as an organisation we're using Office 365. So if you think about the millions of pounds that Microsoft have poured into the development of that Office suite, and we get it for a per charge per month of an absolute fraction. Our accounting system is an online cloud-based system. We have a HR as a service, which is Harvest, which you can do all your HR on. And you won't be surprised to hear that we use Salesforce as our CRM. But if you wind back 5 or 7 years ago and you went into your CEO and said, I want to take all my sensitive customer data, all the things that differentiate us from our customers, and I want to put it up in the cloud where I don't really control it, and somebody else is going to own the IP of that, you would have been thrown out of the door. But roll forward 5 years, imagine going into that CEO and now saying, do you know what, I'd like to build a bespoke CRM system because I've got a really good idea how it should work, and I want to make sure it's all stored in our own data center, which we're going to have to build ourselves. You get laughed out of the door. And what's going to happen in insurance is, as we move to product as a service, we're going to move from that concept, which is still very much prevalent in the insurance market, which is I must control my data, I must have it sitting in my own ring-fenced data. And we're going to move very quickly on the Salesforce effect. And then finally, Tim's been able to do an amazing deal where he's made get somebody with a huge amount of investment in infrastructure and get me as a ridiculously marginal cost as CEO as a service. So I'm hoping, Tim, that at some point you're going to change that and be one of the few services that you're going to in-house permanently very quickly. But what this means, my background before I joined the corporate world was in startup world, so I worked in a lot of small startups. It's completely changed the cost dynamics of setting up a business and getting to market. But what it enables you to do, it enables you to compete with the big boys at the same level of capability as of the investment that they've made. But more importantly, you actually have a competitive advantage because your cost point now is so low and your ability to change and flex means that you can compete at a price point and with a degree of flexibility for your customer that the big guys with their investment in legacy infrastructure find it very difficult to compete. So that's basically the basis for what I want to talk about is how can you take all those things that we take for granted now as demand as a service and turn that into a product as a service that will revolutionise and change the insurance industry. So what is the number one challenge in insurance at the moment? We all know that capital has effectively become a commodity and that if we're honest with ourselves, there's very little differentiation on innovation and underwriting. And that's why you're seeing, when anything becomes commoditized, that's when you see consolidation and you see takeovers, because scale is the only response to commoditization. And where you see all the fight now is the desperate fight for distribution. How do I protect my revenue stream? How do I get closer to the customer? So whether it's a reinsurer moving into insurance, whether it's an insurance company opening new global offices, whether it's a broker creating their own brand, the fight is for distribution. And when you go and talk to our customers, the number one complaint is, I can't get to market quickly enough with my product. Because I go to my IT guys and they say, well, it'll take you 6 months to get the product on the platform and it's going to cost you 100,000. And by the way, we've actually got 3 products in the pipeline, so actually 2016's gone, so we can put you in the 2017 calendar. And that's the real problem focusing our customers' minds. So in response to that, product as a service suddenly becomes an incredibly attractive way to the business people within the business to talk about how they get to market. And we've had a couple of examples today of people who are thinking along the same lines, so Casco and the Massa. It's this idea of how do you make it easy for your customers to get to market. So what we've done at Instanda is we've built what is effectively a utility platform. It has a series of configurable tools, whether that be doing a question set, putting your documents or your rating together, and it allows you to self-service and get to market and build your own products. We're not interested in having an organisation that has loads of developers and config people building the product. This is to empower the business people to build their own products. So it's very much a Salesforce self-serve model. And because it's a software as a service platform, it has that commercial model. So it's a model based on consumption. We don't care how many products you put on the platform. We don't care how many users you have. All we care is that you sell your product and you're successful, and we're able to share in the upside. So you go from that profile of £100,000 in 6 months to a profile that says £5,000 in 3 weeks. So it's a quantum leap in these organisations as to how they get to market. So this is what we're targeting. We're targeting anybody who wants to sell insurance, whether it's the very largest insurer or the very smallest start MGA. This is a utility platform you can take and customise your customer experience and get to market very quickly. And I think, well, Tim's got a background with CI. I've got a background as being the purchaser and supplier of insurance technology, and we know how dysfunctional that relationship has been. We know about the conflict between purchaser and supplier. So the purchaser thinks they're getting ripped off and charged far too much. The supplier thinks the customer doesn't understand the value of what they're buying and they're getting it too cheap. What we've done with this platform by using product as a service is really just to remove all those barriers. You've now got a selling process which is A, at a cost point everybody thinks is great value, and where your commercial drivers are fully aligned with your customer. And it's really interesting for me, having joined from my background, the sort of sales conversations I'm having now as opposed to the sort of sales conversations I used to have. It's a completely different dynamic. So we're fortunate in that we're a little bit further on our journey than the presentations you had earlier. We're about 2 years into the journey. The platform is built, it's live. We have 9 paying customers. We have about 15 products on the platform. And our focus now is really about expanding and attracting more people to the platform. So the best marketing is always what your customers say about you. So I've got a few quotes on the slide. But 2 things I'd pull out from the meeting we had with LV as we talked about the product going live. They said, this is product as a service. We really get it now. We really understand how this is different. But most importantly, this is not an IT sell. This is not a heavy installation of IT where you've got the IT guys going in. This is something LV said, we understand that we're buying a set of services and it's driven by the business as opposed to being driven by the IT department. So I think we've heard some really good examples from the other guys today about how product as a service I think is really going to change and transform the way the insurance industry works. Thank you very much.